Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyadya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya
Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
So traveling with Mahaprabhu in South India, and in the last chapter we saw that finally the travel is getting over and Mahaprabhu has just reached, he has arrived back to Jagannath Purī. So now we will see what happens when he arrives back to Jagannath Purī after covering the entire South India back with his devotees.
Ye pathe purve prabhu kaila agamana Se pathe chalila dekhi sarva vaishnava gana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned by the same road he had formerly taken to Vidyanagar, and all the Vaishnavas along the way saw him again. So Lord had passed through this particular route, and that time they were in ignorance. Lord came, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he danced, he embraced devotees. All of them heard the holy names of the Lord from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mouth. They received his mercy of the holy name from him. They were embraced by the Lord, and Lord had instructed many devotees to begin the process of chanting and to share, to go back to their village and to inspire others to chant the holy names. So all of them had become devotees. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was coming back, all these devotees saw the Lord again and they were just so blissful. या लोका उठे हरिध्वनिकारी देखी आनंदित मना हैल गौर हरि.
Wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, the holy name of Sri Hari was vibrated. Seeing this, the Lord became very happy. So now it was Lord's turn to become so pleased and happy, because he could see that his travel is actually bearing fruits. Everywhere people were chanting Hari Hari.
Hari Hari.
Alalnath
आची कृष्ण दासे पाठाईला नित्यानंद आदि निज गण बोलाईला. When the Lord reached Alalnath, he sent his assistants Krishnadas ahead to call for Lord Nityananda Prabhu and other personal associates. So this is where actually the devotees had come to. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving for South India Yatra, the devotees were unable to separate themselves from the Lord, and they had traveled along with him all the way to Alalnath, and from here actually Lord just started alone with his servant. And these devotees headed by Nityananda Prabhu had remained back. And once Lord reached, so Lord was also very eager to announce his arrival in Alalnath, and that's why he sent his servant ahead so that Lord Nityananda and others can actually come and they all can meet and feel the ecstasy. Prabhura agmana shuni Nityananda raya Uthiya chalila preme te nahi paya.
As soon as Nityananda Prabhu received the news of the arrival of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately got up and started out to see him. Indeed, he was very impatient in his great ecstasy. So this news has reached, and Nityananda Prabhu is just rushing to Alalnath.
And towards the later verses, we see that how the analogy is given of the seeds in a desert. If the seeds are sown and there's no water, how the situation of the seeds would be. And similarly, all the devotees without the Lord, they were feeling so much separation. Jagannātha Damodara Pandita Mukunda Nachiya Chalila Dehe Nadhare Ananda. Shri Nityananda Rai, Jagannātha, Damodar Pandit and Mukunda all became ecstatic in their happiness, and dancing along the way they went to meet the Lord. Now, if those of us who have traveled from Jagannath Purī to Alalnath, it's some distance, it takes some time even by traveling by bus. And these devotees, when they heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so they danced all the way. They was just so happy with this news. They were singing and dancing and going to meet the Supreme Lord. Gopinatha Charya Chalila Anandita Hana Prabhu Remi Lila Sabe Pathe Lagapana.
Gopinath Acharya also went in a very happy mood. They all went to meet the Lord, and they finally contacted him on the way.
Prabhu Prema Veshe Sabae Kaila Alingana Prema Veshe Sabe Kare Ananda Krandana. The Lord, who was filled with ecstatic love, and he embraced them all. Out of their love, they began to cry with pleasure. Now, I was just thinking that whatever happiness we get in material world, it is a very, very rare occasion that we are so happy that we begin to cry. And here we see devotees, this is a natural manifestation of their great amount of pleasure. So this pleasure is spiritual pleasure. So material happiness is insignificant compared to the happiness which devotees experience in devotional service. And here they are seeing the Lord of their heart, and they're being embraced by the Lord, and they're being embraced by the Lord, and they're just so happy and ecstatic. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Anande Chalila Samudre Ratire Ashi Prabhu Remi Lila.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also went to see the Lord with great pleasure, and he met him on the beach by the sea. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is also meeting the Lord.
Sarvabhauma Mahaprabhu Parila Charane Prabhu Tane Uthana Kaila Lingane. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord pulled him up and embraced him. Prema veshe sarva bhauma karila rudani Sava sange aila Prabhu Ishwar darshani.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya cried in great ecstatic love. Then the Lord, accompanied by them all, went to the temple of Jagannātha. So as we can see that the devotees are so happy. They are so happy. They are experiencing such bliss that the tears are flowing from their eyes. So this is the tears of ecstasy.
And they are going to see the Lord. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after so many months, he is going to see the Lord Jagannātha. Jagannātha darshana prema vesha kaila kampasveda pulakashu te sharibashila. Due to ecstatic love experienced upon visiting Lord Jagannātha, inundations of trembling, perspiration, tears and jubilation swept the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again having darshan of the Lord Jagannātha, he experienced all these powerful symptoms of Krishna Prem. The body began to tremble, it began to perspire, tears came from his eyes, and there was great amount of jubilation. So all these transcendental emotions swept the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like, we see when we are standing on the shore, the sea wave comes and sweeps the entire shore. So like that, all these emotions came and they swept the body of Lord Chaitanya. Bahunitya Gita Kaila Prema Vishtahana Pandapala Aila Sabe Mala Prasadana.
In ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted. At that time, all the attendants and priests came to offer him a garland and the remnants of Lord Jagannāth's food. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in front of his most beloved, worshipable deity, Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra, and he was experiencing such amazing ecstasy that he was like uncontrollable ecstasy. So he was dancing and chanting. And the priests were also very happy to see him, and immediately a garland and some prasadam was arranged for him.
How many of us have such feelings when we go to temple and darshan of the Lord? Mala prasad pana prabhu susthira haila Jagannathe sevak sabha anande milila. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became patient, susthir, after receiving the garland and prasadam of Lord Jagannath. So these pandas, devotees were ecstatic, and these pandas also taking care of Jagannath, these servants of Lord Jagannath, they were also very ecstatic in seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They knew that Supreme Lord himself, great devotee of the Lord Jagannāth, has come. So they offered him garland, they offered him prasadam. All the servants of Lord Jagannāth met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great pleasure. Kashi Mishra Shri Prabhu Padila Charane Manya Kari Prabhu Tanre Kaila Lingane.
Afterward, Kashi Mishra came and fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord, and Lord respectfully embraced him.
Prabhulana sarva bhauma nija ghare gela mora ghare bhiksha bali nimantrana khaila. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then took the Lord with him to his home, saying, "Today's luncheon will be at my home." In this way, he invited the Lord. So, like in his previous day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya will often invite the Lord, please come to my home and take lunch, and he would very lovingly serve him the remnants of Lord Jagannath. Divya Mahaprasada Nika Anaila Pitha Pana Adi Jagannatha Ye Khaila.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought various types of food remnants that had been left by Lord Jagannath. He brought all kinds of cakes and condensed milk preparation. So here it is mentioned Pitha Pana Adi. So different types of cakes and condensed milk preparations were brought.
Madhyana Karila Prabhu Nija Ganalana Sarvabhauma Ghare Bhiksha Karila Siya. Accompanied by all the associates, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house and took his noon lunch there. So just a point in the previous verse, it was mentioned that Jagannātha khaiye. So what Lord Jagannath ate was then offered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and here we see that he visited Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house along with all his associates and took his noon lunch. So actually, if we read scriptures, we naturally develop so much of implicit faith that the deity is non-different from Krishna, that the deity served bhoga and the deity eats, and then we receive the Mahaprasad. So by reading these scriptures and these statements, and by the faith of the devotees, we develop so much of implicit faith. We become naturally, we develop, we naturally understand that how the Lord actually ate the bhoga, and then we are honoring his Mahaprasad.
Bhikshakarana Tandrekara Ilashayana Apane Sarvabhauma Karepa Samvahana. After offering food to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya made him lie down to rest, and he personally began to massage the legs of the Lord. So we remember Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when initially, first time he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was thinking, oh, this young boy, why did he take sannyas? He's so young and I should protect him. So he was feeling more like a father or a protector. And here we see that because he has understood the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he is personally massaging the legs of the Lord. Prabhu Tandre Pathaila Bhojana Karite Se Ratri Tandra Ghare Rahila Tandra Prite.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then sent Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to take his lunch, and the Lord remained that night in his home just to please him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had so much of affection for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he would not refuse his request, and that's why he would come to his home, honor Jagannath Prasad lunch, and he in fact stayed overnight also just to please Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So such great fortune.
Sarvabhauma Sange Hara Lana Nija Gana Tirtha Yatra Katha Kahi Kaila Jagarana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates remained with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. They all stayed awake the entire night as the Lord spoke of his pilgrimage. So just like when our loved one comes from a long travel and we want to know all the details of what happened, or batao, what did you do, where did you go, how did you go. So like that, all the associates were sitting and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was describing his pilgrimage pastimes. Prabhu kahe tirtha kailu paryatana Toma sama Vaishnava dekhilu ek jana.
The Lord told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I have traveled to many holy places, but I could not find a Vaishnava as good as you anywhere. So this is the realization of the Lord, that he traveled to so many holy places. On holy places specifically, there are saintly people who stay there, sages who stay there, devotees who stay there. We see that how he traveled to Srirangam, and he stayed in wonderful devotees' houses. And he's coming back after visiting all those tirthas, and he's saying, I've traveled, but I have not found a Vaishnava. Toma sama Vaishnava na dekhilu ekajana. As good as you as a Vaishnava, I have not seen anywhere.
Eka Ramananda Raya Bahu Sukha Dila Bhatt kahe lagi milite kahila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I received much pleasure from the talks of Ramananda Rai. So he said that was one person whose talk which I really enjoyed.
Tirtha Yatra Katha Kailu Samapana Sankshepe Kahilu Vistarnaya Varnana. Thus, I have ended my narration about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pilgrimage, describing it in brief. It cannot be described very broadly.
After 358 357 verses, Krishnadas Kaviraj is saying that he has briefly described.
Ananta Chaitanya Lila kahite na jani, lobhe lajja kana tara kari thana thani.
The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited. No one can properly describe his activities. Yet I make the attempt out of greed. This but reveals my shamelessness. So out of his humility, out of his natural spiritual humility, Krishnadas Kaviraj is mentioning this, that how shamelessly he is describing and how he has greed to describe. But of course that is not the fact, and we are so fortunate that, and we are so grateful that he has described, so that we all can sit and relish these pastimes.
Prabhura Tirtha Yatra Katha Shuniye Jana, Chaitanya Charane Paya Gaudha Prema Dhana. Whoever hears of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pilgrimage to various holy places attains the riches of very deep ecstatic love. So if we hear Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes of Tirtha Yatra, then what do we receive? Gaudha Prema Dhan, the riches, the wealth of deep ecstatic love of God.
Chaitanya Charita
Shuna Shraddha Bhakti Kari, Matsarya Chadiya Mukhe Bala Hari Hari.
Please hear the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and devotion. Giving up envy of the Lord, everyone chant the Lord's holy name, Hari
Hari Hari.
So that is the request of the author, that please chant the name of the Supreme Lord Hari and give up the envy.
So this whole section is Falastuti, and we saw the Falastuti is that if we hear this pastime of the Lord of doing Tirtha Yatra, we develop Gadha Prem for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Kali kale ara nahi kona dharma, Vaishnava Vaishnava Shastra ekare marma.
In this age of Kali, there are no genuine religious principles other than those established by Vaishnava devotees and the Vaishnava scriptures. This is the sum and substance of everything. So this is the bona fide religion, this is the bona fide scripture, where we are hearing from the Param Vaishnav, we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada, we are hearing from Krishnadas Kaviraj, the glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya Chandrera Lila Gadha Gambira, Pravesha Kalite Nari Sparshira Hitira. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are just like an unfathomable ocean. It is not possible for me to enter into it. Simply standing on the shore, I am but touching the water. So the pastimes of the Lord are like, here it is described as Agada Gambhir, or like an unfathomable ocean. Unfathomable ocean, already ocean is very, very deep. Like Challenger Deep, it is more than 10 kilometers depth is there. And here it is unfathomable, which means we cannot reach the bottom of that ocean, and that is how the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is very humbly saying it is not possible for me to enter into it. Simply, he's standing on the shore and just touching the water. So what he has presented is just touching the water of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And imagine if we have an opportunity to actually touch that water, then we are, which we are doing, trying to do by reading Chaitanya Charitamrta. Chaitanya Charita Shraddhaya Shunye Jana, Yate Ka Vichare Tata Paya Prema Dhana.
The more one hears the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith, analytically studying them, the more one attains the ecstatic riches of love of Godhead. So this is another Falastuti, that the more we hear, and condition is with faith. So the more we hear, the more we feel ecstasy, the more we receive the love of Godhead.
Shri Rupa Raghunatha Deyara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrta Kahe Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta, following in their footsteps.
So with this we conclude the chapter, and here we are entering into the 10th chapter of Madhya Lila, the Lord's return to Jagannath Purī. So that was, we just saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going on a pilgrimage to South India and different places. We traveled along with him, and now Mahaprabhu is back in Jagannath Purī. So what is happening now when he comes back? So this chapter, here we have mentioned only till verse 74. So 4 sections are mentioned here. And we will begin with the first section. So verse number 1 to 23, conversation between King Pratap Rudra and Sarvabhauma. So here we enter in the first section.
Tam vande gaur jaladam swasya yodarshanamritahi vichedavagrahamalan bhakta shashyani ajivayat. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, who is compared to a cloud that pours water on fields of grain, which are like devotees suffering due to the shortage of rain. Separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is like a drought, but when the Lord returns, his presence is like a nectarian rain that falls on all the grains and saves them from perishing. So there is a field which has some grains, and there is a drought. And that drought and all the seeds, they are just suffering and they are about to die. And that, what is that drought? That drought is the separation from the Supreme Lord. So here, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns, it is like the rain which has ended that long drought, and all the devotees are now enlivened. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya.
Purveya be Mahaprabhu Chalila Dakshine Pratap Rudra Raja Tabe Bolai Sarvabhaume. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for South India, King Pratap Rudra called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his palace. So this incident in this particular chapter happened after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just departed for South India Yatra. The king had called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his palace. Vasite asana dila kari namaskare Mahaprabhu varta tabe puchila tahare.
When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with the king offered him a seat with all respect and inquired about news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we shall all remember that this king, King Pratap Rudra, he himself is a very nice Vaishnava devotee. So now, and that is how he is giving so much of respect to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he's actually interested in knowing more about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the reason why he has called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Shunilana tomar ghare ek mahashaya Gauda haite ailate ho mahakripa maya. The king said to the Bhattacharya, I have heard that a great personality has come from Bengal and is staying at your home. I have also heard that he is very, very merciful. That Ek Mahashaya, a great personality from Bengal has come, is residing in your home, and he's very, very merciful. Tomar bahu kripa kaila kahe sarva jana kripa kari kara mora tahara darshana.
So now Sarvabhauma has heard a lot from other people. So what he is saying, that I have also heard that this great personality has shown you great favor. At any rate, this is what I hear from many different people. Now, being merciful upon me, you should do me the favor of arranging an interview. So he is basically interested in having darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has heard from many people that how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done great favor, showered great mercy on Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So actually, when we want to approach the Supreme Lord, the best way is to find his dear most devotee. And if the devotee recommends our case, then everything becomes very easy. So here he is telling that, can you please arrange for a meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
भट्ट कहे यीशु नीला सव सत्य होया, तारा दर्शन तोमार घटन ना होया. The Bhattacharya replied, all that you have heard is true, but as far as an interview is concerned, it is very difficult to arrange. So Bhattacharya confirmed whatever the king Prataprudra had heard is correct, but as far as the meeting is concerned or the interview is concerned, that is very difficult to arrange, and we'll just see the reason why. विरत सन्यासी ते हो रहे न निर्जने, स्वप्ने न करे न ते हो राजा दर्शने.
So now he is talking about this particular sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he mentions that he is in the renounced order and very much detached from worldly affairs. So actually that was the protocol, especially during those time, people would very strictly follow that the sannyasis would not mingle with worldly minded people or those who are attached with worldly affairs. And here the king, though he is a devotee and yet he is a king, and so as his duty, he has to be attached to all the worldly affairs. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying that he stays in solitary places and even in dreams, swapne na korena. So even in dreams, he does not grant interviews to the king. So that portion is very difficult for arranging a meeting. Now imagine the king wants to meet a mendicant, a sannyasi, a sadhu who does not have any possession at all. The king is desirous of that. And yet who is superior? The superior person is the sannyasi because of his devotion. And here we are talking about the Supreme Lord himself. So that is the respect what the kings would give to the sannyasis that time. So now he is asking for darshan, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying not even in dreams is this possible.
And this also is very natural for a person in renounced order because he has renounced the worldly life.
That does not impress him.
Yes, and he has to protect himself because if he meets, actually we need to understand also the nature of the king. The king had absolute powers. He had absolute access to all the wealth he had, and they would usually be used to lot of sense enjoyment. So just by looking at the king, one will also remember the kind of sense gratification which the king will enjoy or would be engaged in, and that will affect the consciousness of the person who's meeting with the king. So a meeting with the king is not really good for a sannyasi or for anyone, or for any sannyasi to meet a person who's engaged in worldly affairs.
Tadhapi prakare toma karaitam darshana samprati karila deho dakshina gamana.
Still, I would have tried to arrange your interview, but he has recently left to tour South India. Raja kahe Jagannātha ke gela, bhatt kahe Mahan tera ek Lila.
So the king asked, why has he left Jagannath Purī? I mean, Jagannath is here, the Lord of the universe. Why he has to leave? So bhatt kahe Mahan tare ek Lila. So this is the symptom, or this is the pastime of such advanced people.
Tirtha pavitra karite kare tirtha brahmana se chale nistaraye samsarika jana. Great saints go to holy places of pilgrimage in order to purify them. For that reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is visiting many tirthas and delivering many conditioned souls. So this is something that it's a revolution for the king, because king is thinking Jagannath is here. Why anyone has to go anywhere? So that also shows that how Jagannath is a great Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sorry, the King Prataprudra is a great devotee of Jagannath, and therefore he understands that there is no need for anyone to go anywhere. And so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is revealing that actually great saints, they go on pilgrimage and they go to holy places for what purpose? To purify them. Why? Because the great devotees carry the Lord within their heart, who is the supreme purifier. So wherever such devotees go, by the dust of their lotus feet, by their taking bath in the places of pilgrimage, they purify, they actually relieve the burden of sinful karma which is left there by other living entities. Bhavad vidha bhagavatas tirthi bhuta swayam vibho tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantastena gadavrita.
Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. So this is a verse which is spoken by Yudhishthir Maharaj to Vidura in Srimad Bhagavatam 1st canto, where he is talking about these saintly people and how powerful, how potent they are, that normally people go to these holy places to shed off their sins. Like I go to Ganga so that I can take dip in Ganga so that I become purified. And such people, they go to holy places, the saintly people, they go to holy places because of their purity, even the sin which has been accumulated by so many other sinners gets purified. So that is how they visit there.
Vaishnavera haya ekasvabhav nischala teho jivana nana swatantra ishvara. A Vaishnava travels to places of pilgrimage to purify them and reclaim fallen conditioned souls. This is one of the duties of a Vaishnava. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Consequently, He is a fully independent controller, yet in His position as a devotee, He carries out the activities of a devotee. So multiple reasons are given. So one is given that it is the duty of a Vaishnava, it is a duty of a devotee to travel to place of pilgrimage and purify them and also reclaim fallen conditioned souls. And we saw in this pilgrimage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wherever he went, he saved people from different fallacious philosophies, and he gave them the process of Kali Yuga, the process of deliverance Kali Yuga, the chanting of the holy name. So actually that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. So one, that's a duty of a Vaishnava, and on the other hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not an ordinary living entity. He is the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord, he is Swatantra, he is supremely independent and he can do as he pleases, and yet he is in a position of a devotee. So he has carried out the activities of a devotee. Raja kahe tanre tumi aite kene dile paya padi yatna kari kene na rakhile.
Upon hearing this, the king replied, "Why did you allow him to leave? Why didn't you fall at his lotus feet and keep him here?" So because the king is also so fascinated just by hearing Shravanam. All he has done is he has heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he is so attached and impressed and fascinated by him. So the king is telling, why did you let him go? Why didn't you stop him?
Probably feeling that he may not return. And he just went on a Tirth Yatra. Bhattacharya kahete ho swayam Ishwar Swatantra Sakshat Shri Krishna te ho nahi paratantra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself and is completely independent, being Lord Krishna Himself. He is not dependent on anyone and he has personal experience. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has personal, because he tried his best to, ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to remain. He asked that if you stay for some more time, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted his request. He stayed for some more time and then he left. And Chaitanya, and in fact, many devotees wanted to travel with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which he did not agree to. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has this realization that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord, independent, and he will do.
He'll take his own decisions.
Yeah, he'll take his own decisions. He's not dependent on anyone.
तथापि राखीते तान्रे बहु यत्न कैलू ईश्वरेर स्वतंत्रेच्छा राखीते नारीलू. Still, I endeavored very hard to keep him here. But because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and completely independent, I was not successful. राजा कहे भट्ट तुम्ही विज्ञ शिरोमणि तुम्ही तान्रे कृष्ण कहा ताते सत्य मानी.
The king said, Bhattacharya, you are the most learned and experienced person I know. Therefore, when you address Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Krishna, I accept this as the truth. So here we see that how relationships are so important. Now, Bhattacharya was the foremost scholar in the king's court, and the king had absolute faith in him. He's saying here, Tumi Vijnana Shiromani, that I do not know anyone more learned or experienced as you. And therefore, if you are saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, Tate Satyamani. So I accept this as absolute truth. So this is how we need to accept the guidance of the spiritual master. So we have a relationship with devotees, we have a relationship with the spiritual master, and when he says something, we understand a bona fide spiritual master will not say anything other than what is stated by the scriptures and previous acharyas and previous devotees. So we just have to accept and execute the instructions.
पुनरपि हातान्रा हाइले आगमना एक बार देखी करी सफल नयना. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns, I wish to see him just once in order to make my eyes perfect. So now, previously he had heard something and now he has heard from the authority. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an authority, he was an acharya. And from him he has heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself. So now he has become even more eager. He's saying just once at least I want to see him so that my eyes would become perfect. Bhattacharya kahete ho asibe alpakale rahite tanre ka sthana chahiye virale.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, His Holiness Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will return very soon. I wish to have a nice place ready for him, a place solitary and peaceful. So here, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is presenting a request to the king that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will soon return. So I need a nice, solitary, secluded, peaceful place for him.
ठाकुरे निकट आरा हाइबे निर्जने ए मत निर्णयकारी देह एक स्थाने. So now we need to understand how in detail Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually understands Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's requirements. So he is telling Lord Chaitanya's residence should be very secluded and also near the temple of Jagannātha. Please consider this proposal and give me a nice place for him. So if we visit Jagannātha temple, around the temple and especially the road, the temple road, it is all so crowded. So because that is the heart of the city. And it was the same during that time also. So that was a very crowded area. And he is requesting that I want a residence. One, it has to be secluded. And second, near the temple of Jagannātha also, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would daily go to Jagannātha darshan also. Raja kahe aiche kashi mishra bhavana Thakurera nikat haya parama nirjana.
The king replied, Kashi Mishra's house is exactly what you require. It is near the temple and is very secluded, calm and quiet. I'm amazed at the knowledge of the king. The king is also very well aware of, his
what facility he has.
Kingdom, I would say. He has so much exact knowledge of his kingdom. So he's saying Kashi Mishra's house is perfect. What you need is all conditions are met by his house. Itakahi raja rahe utkanthit hana Bhattacharya Kashi Mishre kahila asiya.
After saying this, the king became very anxious for the Lord to return. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then went to Kashi Mishra to convey the king's desire. So the more he heard, the more he is eager and anxious whether Mahaprabhu would return or not, and when will he return. So he was in an anxious state, and Sarvabhauma, he went to make the arrangements for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
King was such a great devotee of Jagannātha, and when he came to know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Jagannāth, so how much eager he would be, anxious.
Kashi Mishra kahe ami bada bhagyavana Mora grehe Prabhu pader have avasthana.
When Kashi Mishra heard the proposal, he said, the Lord of all Prabhus, Mahaprabhu, will stay at my home.
So here we see the word uses Prabhu pader. So which means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is referred here as Prabhupada. So what is the meaning of this title Prabhupada? Prabhupada means there are many Prabhus or many pure Vaishnavas basically who take shelter unto the lotus feet. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and at his lotus feet are so many pure exalted Vaishnavas. So that is why he gets this title Prabhupada. And next we begin the next section. Devotees meet the Lord at Kashi Mishra's house. So now king has ordained that Kashi Mishra's house is a secluded place and it is near to Jagannātha temple, and this would probably be the best thing. So here we see that there are verses 24 to 48 talking about this. So this, my dear devotees, we will continue in the next session. We will get into this section where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would arrive, and we will see how he meets so many other devotees of Jagannātha Purī. So with this, we will end the session here.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So wish you all a very happy Deepavali. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And there is also another announcement. There is an eclipse which is happening on the Tuesday, and another one is on 8th of November. So we would have japa during that time, chanting the holy names of the Lord. That's the best way to avoid all the ill effects of an eclipse. So we'll be sharing the link in the japa groups. Please join us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Should be very secluded and also near the temple of Jagannātha. Please consider this proposal and give me a nice place for him. So if we visit Jagannātha temple, I mean around the temple, and especially that road, the temple road, it is all so crowded. So that, because that is the heart of the city, and it was the same during that time also. So that was a very crowded area. And he is requesting that I want a residence. One, it has to be secluded, and second, near the temple of Jagannātha also, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would daily go to Jagannātha darshan also.
Raja kahe aiche Kashi Mishra bhavana Thakurera nikataya paramanirjana. The king replied, Kashi Mishra's house is exactly what you require. It is near the temple and is very secluded, calm and quiet. I'm amazed at the knowledge of the king. The king is also very well aware of, his
What facility
his
there?
kingdom. I would say, he has so much exact knowledge of his kingdom. So he's saying Kashi Mishra's house is perfect. What you need is all conditions are met by his house. Etakahi raja rahe utkanthit hana bhattacharya Kashi Mishre kahila asiya.
After saying this, the king became very anxious for the Lord to return. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then went to Kashi Mishra to convey the king's desire. So the more he heard, the more he is eager and anxious whether Mahaprabhu would return or not, and when will he return. So he was in an anxious state, and Sarvabhauma, he went to make the arrangements for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
King was such a great devotee of Jagannātha, and when he came to know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Jagannāth, so how much eager he would be, anxious.
Kashi Mishra kahe ami bada bhagyavana Mora grehe Prabhu pader have avasthana.
When Kashi Mishra heard the proposal, he said, the Lord of all Prabhus, Mahaprabhu, will stay at my home.
So here we see the word uses Prabhu pader. So which means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is referred here as Prabhupad. So what is the meaning of this title Prabhupad? Prabhupad means there are many Prabhus, or many pure Vaishnavas basically, who take shelter unto the lotus feet. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and at his lotus feet are so many pure exalted Vaishnavas. So that is why he gets this title Prabhupad. And next we begin the next section. Devotees meet the Lord at Kashi Mishra's house. So now king has ordained that Kashi Mishra's house is a secluded place and it is near to Jagannath temple, and this would probably be the best thing. So here we see that there are verses 24 to 48 talking about this. So this, my dear devotees, we will continue in the next session. We will get into this section where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would arrive, and we will see how he meets so many other devotees of Jagannath Purī. So with this, we will end the session here.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So wish you all a very happy Deepavali. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And there's also another announcement. There is an eclipse which is happening on the Tuesday, and another one is on 8th of November. So we would have japa during that time, chanting the holy names of the Lord. That's the best way to avoid all the ill effects of an eclipse. So we'll be sharing the link in the japa groups. Please join us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.